Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Canadiens Connection Podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained. My name is Michael Spinella, and I'll be your host for the next hour. This is episode 270 of the Canadiens Connection Podcast, and I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio by my co-host, the editor of the Hockey News Montreal, the founder and the president of Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. And how are you doing today, Rick?
I'm doing great. What a sporting weekend it is on a chilly 3-degree Montreal day. Tomorrow, as we record this, it's Saturday. Tomorrow, Sunday, the November 19th, is the Grey Cup. The Alouettes are in Hamilton to face the Blue Bombers for the Grey Cup. And it's if you're a fan of F1, it's a long-awaited race in Vegas on the visuals, a night race, and the Vegas Strip, the Sphere, incredible. And the Montreal Canadiens are in Boston at the TD Garden to face their long-rivaled Bruins. So incredible sporting weekend. We're happy to be here to talk about the Canadiens.
And as we'll talk about in just a few seconds here, those Boston Bruins lost to the Montreal Canadiens last week, so maybe we can continue that trend a little bit for tonight's game. I believe that one went to overtime. So Montreal with a little bit of success against that longtime rival, and just a jam-packed show for everyone today. We'll get you up to date on everything Montreal Canadiens since we were last here, including roster updates, prospects, and news. In segment 2, it's going to be studs and duds. So we're approaching the American Thanksgiving. That's usually a good benchmark for what a team is going to be for the rest of the season. So we'll check up, we'll see how the vibes are in Montreal. And then in our final segment, the third segment, it's the Have Your Say segment. And our Canadiens Connection question of the week is, who is your biggest stud and who is your biggest dud so far this season? We want to hear from you. And Rick, if people are interested in answering this, just letting us know any of their thoughts, what's the best way for them to do so?
You want to write us long form? Send us an email, hello@rocketsportsmedia.com. But it's popular to text us because we've set up a special Rocket Sports text line for you, and it's easy to remember. It's 5853-ROCKET, 5853-ROCKET. Text us anytime, 24 hours a day, with questions, with your thoughts, with your criticisms, with anything you want to say about the Montreal Canadiens.
You can also send us a message or leave any comments on our social media accounts. Just make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Habs Connection. You can also find us at our website, canadiensconnection.fm. So make sure that you continue to check out our comprehensive game previews and post-game recaps for every Montreal Canadiens game at thn.com/Montreal. And here's what's happened since we've been gone. Last week, November the 11th, it was the Montreal win against the Boston Bruins, 3-2 in overtime. Montreal hands Jeremy Swayman his first loss of the season. The Habs scored 2 goals in the third to send the game to overtime, and it was Caden Gooley with the game winner.
Game winner for Caden Gooley in overtime. And he was the second youngest Canadiens defenseman to score an overtime winner. This was a fun game right from the start. The rivalry, the energy in the building. It was military night, celebrating Remembrance Day. The anthem singer from the Royal Canadian Air Force, he was terrific. And the whole night, it was just and on your seat, on the edge of your seat, viewing experience, I thought.
It was a back-to-back last weekend on Sunday, November the 12th. Vancouver comes to Montreal and absolutely spanks the Montreal Canadiens 5-2. The return of Casey DeSmith, who got the start for the Vancouver Canucks. He comes away with the win. The Canucks fairly dominant in pretty much all areas. Jake Allen showing off a new mask, but unfortunately, the new mask is 0-1 to start off its career. 5 different goal scorers for the Vancouver Canucks, including an empty netter.
Yeah, this Vancouver is a team. They hold the best offense in the NHL, and we saw it in the second period, scoring 3 times in the middle frame, and that was all they needed.
On Tuesday, November the 14th, Calgary came to town, and they come away with a 2-1 win. So Montreal losing 2 games in a row there. Montreal, I think, struggled to get going offensively. The lone goal scorer was Gustav Lindstrom with his first goal as a Hab, his first goal of the season. A bit of a snoozer, to be completely honest, but this in the second period, the Flames did score a couple of quick goals there, and they hang on for the 1-goal win.
Yeah, where was the offense in this one for the Montreal Canadiens? We appreciate that the power play has improved, but the 5-on-5 play that's geared around an offensive system just wasn't clicking, particularly against Calgary.
And on November the 16th, the Vegas Golden Knights come to town and win 6-5. So it was an 11-goal game between the two teams. Caden Primo got the start. Montreal had a 2-0 lead after the first. Jesse Ullinen scored 2 goals in the second, but it was Vegas scoring 4 goals in the second period, 2 in the third to take the win. 3 power play goals for Vegas there. Actually, their last 3 goals were all on the power play, and just scoring all around, and not the best goaltending efforts from either side.
Yeah, the first period, the shots were 18-6, and somehow a little bit of puck luck. The Canadiens had a 2-0 lead going to the first intermission, and I guess they thought, okay, we can continue to run and gun with the Vegas Golden Knights. And as Marty St. Louis said after the game, we played with fire and we got burned.
So the Canadiens' record right now is 7-8-2. That's 21st in the NHL. So slowly moving down the standings as we come here from week to week. Continue to check out Habs Notepad, Habs headlines, and feature articles and game day posts appearing regularly at thn.com/Montreal. In our roster news, the Canadiens did recall Gustav Lindstrom from Laval. As I mentioned, he got his first goal of the season against the Calgary Flames, and then they reassigned Yoel Armia to the Laval Rocket. Armia currently sitting at a point per game in the AHL.
Yeah, he's looking actually very good and has a very good attitude being in the AHL.
Injury updates. Jordan Harris could be back in the lineup tonight on Saturday, November the 18th, after being out for a few days there. Raphael Harvey-Pinard missed Thursday's game against Vegas. He's considered day-to-day. And Arber Xhekaj, also day-to-day. He did not practice on the Friday.
Yeah, the game against Vegas, he got hit hard. That is Arber Xhekaj into the boards by Barbashev. It's usually it's kind of the hit that you expect Xhekaj to deliver. Barbashev caught him. That was late in the second period. Didn't return to the game. A left shoulder problem. For those worried, the injury he had last season and the surgery was with respect to his right shoulder.
The Canadiens right now are currently having their dad's trip. So a lot of teams do this as kind of an annual thing. They invite all the dads of the players out on, I guess, for some road games. And it could be pretty fun to see the dynamics between the players and all the dads showing up to the rink. We actually have some audio from Johnny Kovacevic talking about the dad's trip.
It means the world to have my dad on the trip. I mean, I was saying earlier that as hockey players, there's not much in your life that's bigger than hockey. Hockey takes up so much of your life, but family, your loved ones, that's something that's bigger than hockey. And so to be able to share that with them puts things in perspective and gives you that extra, drive to compete. I mean, I always want to, kind of look good in his eyes, and you're kind of always, looking for that as a kid. You want to make your dad proud, and that's what I want to do on Saturday. Really,
really great. And the visual Kovacevic was just beaming as he was talking about his dad and his dad being on this trip, saying family is bigger than hockey, and he just wants his dad to be proud of him. And he went on to say that his dad was super excited about this trip, and it was kind of, he remembers dad taking son to work. This is son taking dad to work, sort of thing. So I think all the players are really excited about this trip.
Absolutely. And now I think it's a good time to get to our Habs prospect report.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world. Bookmark thn.com/Montreal to follow our comprehensive coverage of Canadiens prospects.
Each week, we like to start things off by highlighting a Montreal Canadiens prospect, and this week we're going to shine the spotlight on Yevgeni Volokhin, the 2023 fifth-round pick by Montreal. He's a goaltender, and he's having a really great start to his MHL season. In 15 games, he's 9-2-3, currently sporting a .937 save percentage and a .157 goals against average, so really great numbers from this goaltender.
Yeah, and to add to that, playing for Mamonti Ugri, he has 2 shutouts, and his last game was a 27-save shutout in a 4-0 win. He's playing in the MHL. That's the Russian Junior League, same league he played in last year. Remember, the Canadiens drafted 3 goaltenders. This was the 3rd goaltender that they selected, and obviously this was someone that was a little unheard of, and that the Canadiens were able to have eyes on this goaltender and make the selection. The goaltenders typically take a lot longer than anyone else, and particularly when you find a goaltender, that's a little bit hidden. And full credit to Vinny Riondo, who is a bit of a pro scout, amateur scout, but unearths these goaltending prospects, and he saw something he liked in Volokhin, and we're going to keep an eye on him as well.
Absolutely. This week, week to week, we have been keeping an eye on the USCHO Division I poll, and this week there was a change. It's Wisconsin taking over that number 1 spot. Previously, we've had both Boston U and Boston College at that number 1 spot. Both of those teams have a lot of high-end NHL prospects. Looking at Wisconsin, I don't see at least as many first-round picks, so it's nice to see that a team like Wisconsin would take over that number 1 spot. And Rick, I believe you mentioned that they have a brand new coach this season as well. They
do. We remember Granato being there when Cole Caulfield. This is Cole Caulfield's alumni team, and so they have a new coach. And we checked in on them on the 23rd of October in the Division I men's poll. That they were sitting at 14th, and at that time they had a 5-1 record, and we kind of said, keep an eye on this. Well, they've made the leap in just a couple of weeks to take over the number 1 spot, which is, again, we'll keep an eye on all the teams, but see where they end up. For comparison, if you want to look at the OHL, the power rankings are out, and the Kitchener Rangers have taken over the number 1 spot. They've been on a roll, big offensive team. And again, you have a brand new coach there in Jussi Ahokas. He's got them absolutely rolling right now.
Yeah, for sure. Continuing along with the NCAA, Boston University defenseman Lane Hudson reached an NCAA milestone. And Rick, what did he achieve?
60 points in his career in the NCAA. He's played 49 NCAA games and reached the 69-point mark, so better than a point a game pace. He also, this season, leads all NCAA players with His ice time, 28 minutes and 36 seconds average per game. That's absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. Moving up north of the border and taking a look at the Laval Rocket, they had a pretty good week by their standards, I'd say. Going back to last weekend on the 12th, they had a couple of games in Manitoba. The first one on the 12th, Laval won 6-2. The next one on the 13th, they won 5-2. And a few days off in between before they came back home and hosted the Belleville Senators, and they won 6-4. So goals, 2 road wins in Manitoba, 3 games in which they scored more than 5 goals. And I think the most exciting one was the game against Belleville, where they erased a 4-0 deficit and came back to win 6-4. So pretty impressive from that standpoint. But unfortunately, last night on Friday, November the 17th, their win streak comes to an end against Lehigh Valley. Laval scores 2 power play goals in the third, but just was not enough to overcome the Phantoms.
The Laval Rocket are all offense all the time, and part of the credit, I think, has to go to the hockey development folks, in particular Scott Pellerin, who suggested to JF Uhl that he put Sean Farrell with Joshua Waugh, put them together on a pair, and they've been on a tear. I think Joshua Waugh has 6 points in his last 4 games. Sean Farrell has 7 points in his last 4 games. Logan Mailloux has been great, 6 points in the last 6 games. And this is an odd statistic, but it kind of explains the way Laval's been playing. Goals for in the AHL, they are first, tied for first with 52 goals scored. Top of the league tied at the top of the league for offense. Goals against, absolute worst in the league with 60 goals given up. So they only play in one end of the ice, and that's tough on the Laval goaltenders.
Laval's record currently 5-8-1-0. That's a .393 points percentage and 28th in the AHL, so they move up in the standings ever so slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up this week, Laval has 3 games. Starting on November the 18th, they're going to go to Utica, and then they travel south of the border to Rochester for games on the 22nd and the 24th. If we want to continue along with Montreal Canadiens affiliated teams in the ECHL, the Trois-Rivières Lions continue to have some success. Although they did have 1 loss in the past week, but let's go back to November the 12th. Trois-Rivières beat Adirondack 3-2, and then on the 17th they lose to Maine 4-2. Trois-Rivières' record is still pretty good. It's 9-2-0-0. That's first in the North Division. And a little note here: Matthew Boucher, one of their better forwards, someone that put up 12 points in 8 games, has received a PTO from the Belleville Senators of the AHL. So they'll be missing him, unfortunately.
Well, but that's what they're there for, right, is to develop prospects, and they're doing a very good job. Every week at thn.com/Montreal, you find out about the Montreal Canadiens, you find out about the Laval Rocket, but also Trois-Rivières. And Chris G does a Lions notepad, comes out every Monday. If you want to follow them, catch up on all the news, head to the Hockey News, thn.com/Montreal.
And a little bit of an update in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. We put out an article this past week, as we do manage the English language coverage of the QMJHL for the Hockey News, and it's entitled "Let's Make a Deal. The QMJHL trade period opens in 1 month." Is there anything you can tell us about this, Rick?
Jeremy Boucher, who writes the articles for us, wrote this just to highlight a couple of the teams that may be interested in getting involved in a trade, and you know that the trades in CHL in junior hockey are just spectacular, where they go all in, and so he mentions a few teams to keep an eye on. Also, there's Players of the Week, Team of the Week. You'll see those articles, and there's articles on that site from our archive. Fascinating that there's an article from the Hockey News archive going back to 1981 where This shouldn't sound unfamiliar. There was a lot of criticism about the officials, about the officiating, and a fascinating article that you're going to want to read. So make sure you also follow our coverage at THN QMJHL.
So you can find all of our content about Canadiens prospects at thn.com/Montreal, and you can find the best English language coverage of the QMJHL at thn.com/QMJHL. Time to get to our quotes of the week, and it's going to start off with Brendan Gallagher. Gallagher always has something fun to say. So a little bit of context. On Tuesday night against the Calgary Flames, Brendan Gallagher was assessed a penalty for tripping in the third period against Elias Lindholm. I guess it was a call that he didn't really like. Let's hear what he had to say about it.
He can't make that mistake. It's obviously a real important part of the game. He's in the neutral zone. His partner's right there looking at it. He didn't have a penalty called. Their bench reacts, and he makes a reactionary call. It can't happen at this level, and he knows that.
It can't happen at this level. He's talking about the penalty that was called at 16:48 of the third period, and he apparently took down Elias Lindholm. It looks like the net has equally as much to do with that. Brendan's complaining that it affected the game. It can happen. It's an important part of the game, and that rather than the official that was closest to the play calling it, it was the one in the neutral zone, and very upset. But remember his words, it can't happen at this level.
So that brings us to Thursday night against the Vegas Golden Knights. Brendan Gallagher was assessed a double minor penalty for high sticking at 17:09 of the third period. And, Marty St. Louis had some comments about this.
It can't happen. Can't happen.
It can't happen. Again, it can happen. Again, involving Brendan Gallagher. And oddly enough, it's just 20 seconds in the game. It's just 20 seconds apart. 16:48 third period against Calgary, 17:09 the third period against the Vegas Golden Knights. And this one was particularly costly. We saw some teeth missing all over the ice, and Vegas scored twice on the power play. These quotes of the week this week are all about learning lessons and about how veterans can still learn lessons, about how the young players can learn lessons, and just interesting the way Brendan Gallagher's comments were parroted in soft criticism by Marty St. Louis.
Yeah, kind of interesting to see the parallel there, and a lot of similarities for sure. Our next quote comes from Caden Primo, and he's talking about some positives and negatives within his game.
I think right now it's easy to look at the scoreboard and get negative, and I don't necessarily know what the positives are per se right now, but that's the beauty of the game. You get back at it tomorrow, and you can look at the stuff that you need to improve on, and practice and get better.
So Caden Primo describes himself as a calm goaltender, but he never seems very comfortable. And he was talking about. Keep in mind, he gave up 6 goals in that game against the Vegas Golden Knights. Talking about positives and negatives. Positives, well, I can't really come up with any right now. He sounded very uncomfortable in his own skin, and I think he went on to the really kind of a strange quote was, I read the play well. Quote, I read the game well, and I'm in the right place, which is the most important thing. I feel like my feet are in the right place the majority of the time. It's almost asked as a question. So, what happened? Why did I give up 6? I feel like I'm in the right place. I feel like my feet are in the right place. You can hear him kind of regurgitating the lessons from all the practice time that he's had. But it's not working out for Caden Primo. And yes, in that game, he was peppered in the first period. He made some great saves, and then he gave up some pretty soft goals. He's struggling, and I think part of it is he just doesn't seem comfortable.
And our final quote for this week comes from Jakub Dobas, who's just one underneath Caden Primo. He's been playing with the Laval Rocket all season, and he's playing for a team that gives up a lot of high-end scoring chances, some of the most in the American Hockey League. And, how is he dealing with it?
I mean, that's better. Like, I'm in the minors. I like it. We talk with Marco about it every day. Like, that's what you want as a goalie, right? You want to get better. And you want to win games like that. That's just how you will accomplish what I want, and that's the NHL. I'll rather have 5 breakaways, and get scored on twice, 3 times, than have 10 shots on the net and didn't get any better. I'm trying to get to the NHL, and every hard situation, it's going to make me mentally and just technically better. And I feel like I'm just loving the challenge. I think it's fun. It's just fun. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of weird, It just sounds like, sometimes it's good score a lot, but like I haven't really been challenged in a couple of years. Every year kind of, I dominated. So this is fun. This is fun to just get better. Like you want to be on the same level as Pedersen and Jones and all those guys who dominate or who play in NHL. So I feel like it's a good challenge, and I would just be improving, and I'm feeling already way better than the first 5 games.
We have no idea how and we're not putting Dobas and Primo in the same category, the same trajectory, the same ceiling. But this is all about just being comfortable in your own skin. Jakub Dobas could be very upset for the lack of support. And watching that game, watching any game, you see Dobas make a save. There's a rebound. He makes a second save, and then the third or fourth opportunities put in with no help whatsoever from the Laval Rocket players in front of him. He could be upset. He could be, as I said earlier, in terms of goals against, the Rocket are worst in the league. This is not all the goaltender's fault, though. And Jakub Dobas is looking at it as he calls it fun. And he's not being aloof, or he's not making fun of the issue. He says that if it's a hard situation, if it's a challenging situation, he's going to learn. He's going to learn technically how to be better. He's going to learn mentally how to deal with it. And he said, rather than face 10 easy shots and make all the saves, he'd rather face 5 breakaways and give up 2, because he learns from that. And Marco Marciano, the goaltending coach for Laval Rocket, you can tell the coaching he's done, and in order to receive that, you have to be a good student. And obviously, Dobas has done that. I thought that was an absolutely brilliant quote from Dobas.
Yeah, I love the attitude from him, and saying that it's fun as well. You know what? Enjoying your time in the AHL, and him mentioning, too, that his underlying goal to get to the NHL. So I love all of that from Jakub Dobas. Such a great attitude for a goaltender. Yeah,
absolutely. And he went on. There was an incident in the game. If you're watching the Laval game on Friday night, he went behind the net to play the puck. The Lehigh Valley forward came in and clipped him, and maybe he was a little bit overzealous and exaggerated the way he went down. He spun and he fell, and his teammates came to his rescue. And there was fisticuffs. There was a lot going on. And Dobas said after the game, I really liked that my teammates stuck up for me. He said, I played in the NCAA. I didn't quite know what to do, but if the goalie at the other end, Cal Peterson, was willing to go, I would have tried it. Never had been in a fight before, but you'll want to go to thn.com/Montreal. There's about a 3-minute clip Chris G was at the game and got some audio, exclusive audio that you're going to want to hear. This guy is a treat to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we head off into our first break on the show here, we do have some news from around the league. LA Kings president Luc Robitaille announced that the Kings will play 2 preseason games at Videotron Center in Quebec City in 2024. Sounds like it could be a cool event. I was wondering if Quebec City might get some preseason games at some point. I think that the LA Kings, I'm not sure what the connection is there with the Quebec City, but it seems like it could be cool to look out for.
Well, Luc Robitaille, he's part of the connection, Marc Bergevin in the organization. And so the issue here is that the arena, Crypto.com or whatever they're calling the LA arena these days, is unavailable. There's going to be renovations going on, so it's going to be unavailable for their preseason. So they were looking for a places to hold their preseason action, and this is going to be 2 preseason games at the end, just before the NHL season begins in 2024, and they've lined up. I think it's Boston and one other team that escapes my mind right now. That they're going to have 2 games in Quebec City. Quebec City, the Videotron Center has hosted NHL preseason games in the past. Montreal Canadiens have been there. I've been at the games. I think the last one was maybe 2017 or thereabouts. They're not. Videotron Center is built obviously as an NHL caliber arena. I think the capacity is close to 18,000. The games were pretty sparsely attended. The announced attendance was in the neighborhood of 8,000 or 9,000, but if you were in the building, you knew it was maybe half that amount. There's not a lot of love for the Montreal Canadiens in that region. And I think in talking to fans from that area, they've gotten quite comfortable paying QMJHL prices to see an excellent product in the Remparts, and to pay hundreds of dollars to see a preseason game that they weren't on with that. And so there is some concern. The Kings had some concern about whether they'd be able to meet their costs and bringing in the other teams and all of that. So the Quebec government jumped in. And I think that's where all the controversy started. François Legault, the premier, said that his government would commit $5 to $7 million to support, to pay to the Kings to have them visit Quebec for preseason games. He defended it, saying it's an important investment in leisure. And of course, people are saying, well, what about amateur sports? What about youth sports? What about there's all kinds of sporting events that could be high on the list. This has gotten political, and I don't really want to go there. But it's part of Legault's insistence in bringing an NHL team to Quebec City. We know that we played clips in the summer about Pierre Carl Pelleteau. Saying that the contract that they have with TVI wasn't likely to renew because in his mind, his dream of bringing the NHL back to Quebec City was dead. So again, I don't like the fact when politicians get involved and try to make promises, false promises or empty promises. For political gain, whether that's the case, whether this is, the games are going to happen, but whether this is a prelude to the NHL coming back to Quebec City, I don't know. Gary Bettman, he includes Quebec City whenever he talks about next teams, the opportunity for next teams, but there's lots of others out there, and we talked about that in shows this summer. So this is it's just a cringy feeling when the politicians get involved, when you get a team coming, absolutely cross continent, I feel for the true hockey fans of Quebec City.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, coming up, we'll hear a brand new sponsor from our from DraftKings. Then we'll get to our big topic segment, Studs and Duds. Stay with us. This is the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. You know, it's hockey season once again, and although I love using DraftKings Sportsbook to, enhance and make more fun my NFL watching week to week, it's even more fun when you get in on the action with the NHL and DraftKings Sportsbook. Whether it's daily fantasy, whether it's same game parlays that you're doing on Sportsbook, or whether you're just placing straight up money line bets, DraftKings Sportsbook makes it fun and easy for you to bet the action on the ice. So download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. Now that's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023. All rights reserved.
Welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio. I'm Michael Spinella. You can find me on Twitter at the Spinella, and with me in the studio is our president and founder of Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. You can follow him on Twitter at Rocket Sports, and please make sure that you're also following this podcast, the Canadiens Connection, at Habs Connection on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We also have a website you can check out, canadiensconnection.fm. And just a little reminder here to make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Canadiens Connection podcast in the player or on your favorite podcast app. And welcome to Studs versus Duds, Rick. It's kind of like a proper measuring point for this team coming up pretty soon as we approach the American Thanksgiving. That's pretty, I guess they consider that a landmark for protecting playoff status for NHL teams. It's also a good milestone to make for evaluating players. I think within the Montreal Canadiens organization, there's maybe some mixed feelings as to where the team is at right now. And at this point, I do feel like we have seen them at their best and their worst and at their most in between, to be completely honest.
No, it's a great point. And I know just a few weeks ago, we were asking, have your expectations, have your projections changed about the Montreal Canadiens? Now, we were warning that the Canadiens had a pretty favorable schedule to start and that they may come out of the gate a little bit hotter than you might expect. They benefited from some overtime games and got some points there. And so I think fans were pretty excited about October. Kind of come back to earth since then. And it just seemed, yes, the American Thanksgiving is the point in the season where you can kind of project, not with 100% certainty, but with good certainty about where the team might end up. But as you're approaching, it's the quarter point in the season. It can also be indicative of how players are going as well. So we just thought we would spend some time taking this vibe check and at this point in the season, who's doing well, who isn't.
Yeah. So we made a list of some players and some other things. We'll go through, kind of present some pros and cons for each, and then we'll decide if it's a stud or a dud, and maybe give a little bit of an explanation. We'll also go back and forth. That way I know you, Rick, are not copying all my answers along the way. I want to make sure that's not going to happen. And
Can't
to
see
start...
No, you got your answers tight to your vest there, so can't see them. And yeah, we're gonna as a prosecutor would present one side, and then as a defense counsel would present the other side, and then make our decisions on stud or dud.
So starting off, I think this is actually my favorite of the crew, and the most interesting one to talk about, and that's Josh Anderson. So for the good stuff, well, currently he leads the league in penalties drawn. That's actually a great stat. I love to see that. The cons, 0 goals in 17 games, only 2 assists. So that's it's also a pretty big con. And I guess I'll start this one off. Is this a stud or a dud? Well, I think Josh Anderson so far this season has very much been a dud. That penalties drawn stat is great. I think that's super helpful. But what use is it if you're not scoring any goals? He needs to score, and I think it's it's a shame that we're 17 games into this season and he only has 2 points being assists, and he has yet to score a goal. I think he's had ample opportunities within the top 6 to be able to generate some offense. He's been put on the top line, and he's generated basically nothing. Even the eye test, I've just not seen enough from Josh Anderson. So big dud goes to Josh Anderson.
Yeah, if you zero in on some of these statistics, penalties drawn is terrific. So then the Canadiens go on the power play. And where are the power play goals for Josh Anderson? There's no goals on the power play or otherwise for Anderson. He's really good on retrievals. If you watch him, but then where does it go from there? Josh Anderson has been described as a streaky player in the past, and that's certainly true. But this is a pretty hefty streak that he's in right now, and yet the coach keeps going back to him. Now, is that because of wanting to showcase him? Because he would be an asset that you'd want to move by the trade deadline? Well, let's hope that Kent Hughes is willing to move him. But he's not going to be moved if these are, nobody's going to be fooled by the retrieval stats or the penalties drawn stats. He's got to start producing. And sending him out on the power play, I looked at his power play time. He's 21st in the league for time on ice on the power play, which is, he's getting a lot of opportunity and still not producing. And that game the other night, you had Yevgeni Volokhin scored twice and had, 7 minutes and 22 seconds in ice time. Scored twice, led the Canadiens with 4 shots on goal. Took a one-timer that Adin Hill got spun around. He almost had a hat trick, and yet for power plays, at the end of the game when the Canadiens were trying to tie it up, it was Josh Anderson on the ice, not Yevgeni Volokhin.
So I take it.
So I'm on board your board your dad.
I agree with that, and you mentioned too about trying to possibly showcase Josh Anderson. Remember last season, Kent Hughes was saying that the phone was ringing off the hook with teams calling about Josh Anderson. I wonder if he's kicking himself a little bit, or if he sees this as okay, so no one's calling anymore. Problem solved.
Yeah, you might have. We were encouraging him to take any deal last season for Josh Anderson.
Yeah. So on that, we'll go to our next player, and this one I think is a little bit more complicated than people might expect, and that's Cole Caulfield. So for pros, he's scored 3 overtime game-winning goals. For cons, scored only 1 5-on-5 goal in 17 games. So I'll let you start this one off, Rick.
This is a tougher one, and this is maybe the first time that Cole Caulfield has started to come under criticism. We've seen the Montreal media kind of turning a little bit criticizing Cole Caulfield for his lack of engagement. There was a podcast saying that if he was on a contending team, he wouldn't be a top line player. And we remember all of the projections, us included, about was it going to be what kind of season? At least 40, maybe 45. Was this a 50-goal season for Cole Caulfield? And this is hard because he has the ability to score. As we said, 3 overtime winning goals, but only once, 5-on-5 in 17 games. If you do the projections, he's on pace for 24 goals this season. And, this was supposed to be project fixed, that Ducharme messed him up. Marty St. Louis came in, fixed him. Okay, now Marty moves on to the next problem, Slafkovsky and, whoever else. I just, Cole Caulfield maybe is reading his own press clippings. All this talk about 50-goal season, thought maybe it was going to be easy. He signed that big contract, and I'm seeing, a guy who kind of takes things for granted. And we went and watched him in when he was with Wisconsin, and there wasn't a lot of effort there. He would just kind of hover, wait for the puck, and score. I think that I'd want to see him a lot more engaged, trying to earn it, understanding that the NHL goals don't come easy no matter who you are, no matter what kind of talent you have. And he's still a stud in my books, but we want to see more out of him.
Yeah, I agree with that. You look at his stats, 5 goals total in 17 games. I feel like that's actually kind of disappointing on its own, regardless of if they came in 5-on-5 or however. 10 assists on the year, so getting involved in other ways, I don't mind that. 15 points in 17 games on the surface, not too bad. But like you said, at least in the eye test as well, he's not getting overly involved there. So what do you call him, a stud or a dud so far?
Yeah, I said he's still a stud, but just not that I got one hand on that mantle to remove if this continues. He's got to wake up and start showing some effort.
Yeah, I called him a soft stud. I think we're both thinking along the same lines here. And honestly, looking at all of his stats, I think it was a little bit surprising too. I think a lot of people just assumed that, he's Cole Caulfield. Of course, he's going to score all sorts of goals, but looking at it, and 5 goals in 17, not great. And you hope that he can maybe figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
The next player that we have lined up here is one Caden Gooley. So the pro is he leads the team in block shots with 42. So that's a pretty good stat. The Con scored 1 goal in 13 games. So this one, I like Caden Gooley a lot. I still do think that he is probably the best defenseman on this Montreal team. I think that goes back even to last year. Very much he was the best defenseman on this team. His defense is great. I think he's still looking to develop his offense a little bit. He's not had a whole lot in that regard. But at the same time, I've not seen him be put in the spot that often where he is the one maybe quarterbacking any power plays, or he is the one receiving all the passes in the offensive zone. But I think I still have him as a stud. I like what he brings to this team. I think he's an anchor back there. Currently, he also leads the team with a +5, regardless of what you think about that stat. I think that's pretty good on this Montreal Canadiens team. But unfortunately, 1 goal so far this season is the only thing I really have to knock against Caden Gooley. So I'll give him a stud.
Yeah, I'll lead with my conclusion, and that is that Caden Gooley is a stud. I'm not so much worried about his offense. 1 goal, as you mentioned, in 13 games. He has 5 assists, so 6 points. I think the plus minus that you mentioned, a +5, leading the team, plus minus is not good as an isolated stat, but as a comparable stat, it is valuable. And the fact that he leads the team and is way ahead of many other defensemen. I think it's indicative of his play. I just want to see him get opportunity. He's playing 20 minutes a night, maybe a little bit sheltered at this point, but I don't know if he still needs that. I'd like to see his ice time go up. I'd like to see him return to being paired with Justin Barron, because I think they looked really good together. Of course, Justin Barron was moved up to help out on the top pairing. He's a solid stud in my estimation.
Absolutely. Keeping along with the theme of defensemen, we have one Mike Matheson. Our pro for Mike Matheson is he's recorded 14 points in 17 games. I'd say that's great for a defenseman. I guess he's the defenseman that has the most offensive capabilities. We see him quarterbacking that first power play unit as well. The con, and this is the stat you just talked about, -8. So that's second worst. Leads the team also in 23 giveaways. So that's, some pretty lopsided stats on both sides. I'll let you take the lead on this one, Rick.
Yeah, this one is really tough because I think Mike Matheson is really good in his role, and he's a good puck mover. Obviously, he can chime in with offense. He's been absolutely terrible in his own zone, it's the plus minus is one side of that, but the giveaways, the constant giveaways and turnovers. He blocks a lot of shots. I think he's second to Caden Gooley in block shots, so that's good. But just has a hard time controlling the puck in his own end. I think, I talked about Caden Gooley and his ice time, just 20 minutes a game. Mike Matheson is playing averaging 25 minutes a game. And remember, when he came from Pittsburgh, there he was averaging about 17 minutes a game. So I think he's being put in situations that are a little over his head. I don't think he's a first pairing defenseman. I think he could be a very valuable second pairing defenseman with a lot less ice time.
Yeah, I agree. I think with this one, it's really a debate of his shortcomings versus his successes. Do his shortcomings hurt more than his successes help? I think in this case, it might actually be the case. So I do have Mike Matheson as a dud. Even based off of the eye test as well, I do feel like he struggles a little bit out there. Being on that first power play unit as well, I know in recent history the power play has improved. They've found ways to score. But early in the season when the power play was atrocious, he was still the guy quarterbacking it. And if we're basing this off of all the games up until now, I think very much I would give Mike Matheson a big dud.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I want to see more from Mike Matheson in less time. How about that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We put three players together for this next one, and it's the big trio, Pearson, Monahan, and Gallagher. So the pro scored 14 goals within 17 games, and to be honest, I actually thought they had a great start to the season as well. The con is in the last 7 games, they have scored 1 goal and given up 8 goals against. This one, I don't know. This one's tough. This is where I think we've seen the best of the best and maybe the worst of these guys. I think especially this week with Gallagher and showing off that he's still quite an emotional guy. He came very close to getting himself into some trouble. We talked about that penalty he took against the Calgary Flames, Lindholm, where it was a tripping call, but it was more the net tripping up Lindholm as opposed to Gallagher. I think that he could have ended up hurting the team even more just by mouthing off to the ref there. But let's not forget Sean Monahan, currently tied for the most goals on this team with 6 goals. Monahan's been great so far. So right now I am giving them a stud, but I think this could change pretty soon. And I think the stud is more to do with Monahan at this point and maybe Pearson and Gallagher dragging that down a little bit.
So for me, I think if we're talking about the line, if we're talking about the trio, I'm giving them a dud. And we remember at the start of the season, both you and I said we didn't really understand this this trio. We didn't understand this line and why, given their individual strengths, why they would be assembled. And I think they had some early success, and that's because these guys are all veterans. They've each played with a huge variety of players, and they can figure it out pretty quickly. Whereas, Marty St. Louis didn't develop any chemistry in training camp with the other lines, with any of the lines, and it took some of them longer, other than Suzuki and Caulfield, but it took some of the trios a long time to get some chemistry. This one had some chemistry early, and that's just because they're veterans, not because they were well matched. And yes, they, as a line, they had some really good success. I think that individually now, that other teams are figuring out this line, and that some of their shortcomings are coming to the fore. And I think Monahan is really underutilized in this line. I'd love to see him and his success. You talked about second in goals on the team, or tied for. No, he's tied for first on the team in goals. And I'd like to see him and his experience, his great play, helping out other lines. And I think that the time has come for these three to be dismantled. So as a line, I'm going to label it a dud and hope that it's broken up.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point for sure. The next few that we have coming up, I think we'll go through just a little bit faster. We'll start off with Juraj Slafkovský. He's been the hot topic on our last two episodes of this podcast, and I'll let you start this off.
Yeah, I think that we've made our case in the past about Slafkovský. I don't think anybody can call him a stud right now. It's clear that the Canadiens are going to keep him up within the NHL team, not send him to Laval. The concern here is that Marty St. Louis has refused to agree that Slafkovský has struggled at any point in his NHL career, focused on touches, and we talked about that. His touches are 27 seconds per game measured. That we need to see more, and we have seen a little bit more, but he still looks like a giraffe on ice to me, and is unsteady on his skates and is unsteady with any contact. So I have trouble framing him as a stud right now.
Yep, I agree. This one is probably the most obvious dud in my eyes. 1 goal, 3 points, -6. Some say that in recent history he's had a few better games, but I don't think that's nearly enough. Better doesn't necessarily mean good in this case. And then you look at what happened. I think the Vegas game, he was not great once again. So still no consistency, not enough points, not enough good touches there. Next player we have lined up is an Alex Newhook, and this is one I struggled with a little bit. 9 points, -6. I think it's going to be difficult for me to separate Alex Newhook as a player from the value that Montreal paid to get him in that first and second round pick. I don't think he's ever necessarily going to live up to that. I'm going to give him a bit of a soft dud, just because I don't think he's been involved enough based on my eye test. But this one could change. I really did go back and forth on this.
I'll agree with everything you said, and just add that he has no goals in his last 13 games. So I agree with your soft dud there.
Yeah. Justin Barron is probably going to change things up a little bit in our answers. What did you have to say about Justin Barron?
Justin Barron has been a stud, and I think a surprise stud. He had an iffy training camp, and he was a healthy scratch. There was some wonder, what was going to happen there, and he's been very, very good. Not only his offense, but I think, moving him up to the top pairing to try and stabilize and provide help with the defensive side of Matheson, that's an interesting move. But I think he's been a stud. He looks great with Goulet, and they should be paired going forward.
Yep, I agree with all of that. Like you said, didn't have the greatest camp, but he worked his way up into the lineup, got onto that top pairing, and I've had not really anything bad to say about Justin Barron, so that's a nice big stud. And the last player we'll focus on here is one Caden Primo. And this is another one where he's not played enough to really get a good evaluation, but I think he's still a dud, and I think this dud also goes to the Montreal Canadiens organization just on how they've managed the Caden Primo situation, being a third goaltender, being a healthy scratch, refusing to move him, refusing to put him on waivers. And on top of that, he's had such a small sample size too, but he's the same goaltender that I think we all anticipated. Great saves, amazing, spectacular saves, but then a lot of soft goals going in.
Yeah, his goals against is close to 4, 85 save percentage, his 860 or thereabouts against Vegas. His technically, he's you heard Marty Biron in our show in the summer saying that he just doesn't move quickly enough, and also I think he really struggles with the mental side of the game. We talked earlier about him feeling not comfortable in his skin, feeling uncomfortable. He's a good kid, and the Canadiens need to do better by him and send him to Laval, or if he gets claimed, wish him well.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we'll take a look at the special teams here. Right now, the penalty kill is operating at 75.3%. That's 23rd in the NHL, so on the lower half of the league there. The power play currently 20.6%. That's 15th. I think that's moved up quite a bit. To start the season, their power play was it was awful, like unwatchable at certain points. In the last 2 weeks, I think it has improved. They've managed to score a little bit on the power play. Rick, what do you think about this team's special teams?
Alex Burrows is a dud. Alex Burrows is a dud. Have I said that enough? Marty St. Louis took over the power play, and it has improved considerably. Let's keep in mind that both special teams, both the penalty kill and power play, were 28th in the league last season. So there's been a little bit of an uptick in the penalty kill, significantly better on the power play to 15th. And I'm still going to give it a dud. Why? To have a good power play, the quick and dirty rule, the rule of thumb is you add the percentages, 20.6 in this case of power play and 75.3 of the penalty kill. And if you get to 100, it's a good, you can term the special teams good. Above 100 is great. The Canadiens are on the right trajectory. They just aren't there yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also give this a pretty big dud, especially for how these special teams were operating right at the beginning of the year. Like I said, at times it was just unwatchable. Nice that they've improved enough to get the power play up to 15th in the NHL, but I don't think I've seen enough consistency from that to really label it a stud. So nice big dud. And the last thing we will look at is actually the Montreal Canadiens organization as a whole. Currently 21st in the NHL. There are lots of different things we could say about this one. I'll let you take the lead on this, Rick.
So is 21st, if they finished 21st in the National Hockey League, is that probably a better finish than most people expected or projected? Yeah. So based on that, should they be a stud here? And leave aside how that would ruin the draft pick at this point. But my concern is, and the reason I'm going to put them into the dud category is, if you've read my game recaps, thn.com/Montreal, you're saying, Rick, please, would you please stop talking about regulation wins? I've been harping on regulation wins all season, that it's been 8 games, 9 games since their last regulation win. The last time the Montreal Canadiens won in regulation time was October 23rd over the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
23rd.
That's awful.
That's a month ago, almost. The only other regulation win this season was the second game of the season against Chicago, Bedard. And that game being notable for both Bedard being in Montreal and Kirby Dach's last game this season. So they have 2 regulation wins this season in the NHL. That is worst. That's last. You know how bad. People laughing at other teams. Well, Anaheim for one. They have more regulation wins than the Montreal Canadiens. So they've lucked out. Not lucked out. Maybe lucked out. Cole Caulfield, 3 overtime winners, and have kind of boosted their points, boosted their standing because of that. But this is a concern. This is a real concern. And so I'm going to have to put them in the dud category overall because I'm worried about what's going to happen as the games get tougher, as the schedule gets tougher.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think some people still see like overtime and shootouts as a bit of a toss-up. I think just Montreal's been on the winning end of that more than we expect a team to be able to do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that started to level itself out as the games went along here. And another thing, and I know this is a stat that you like quite a bit there, Rick, it's the goal differential. Currently, Montreal is sitting at a -11, and that's good enough for worst in the Atlantic. Typically, as we go along here, the standings do tend to make itself in favor of the goal differential. Right now, we do see the best goal differential in the Atlantic is the Boston Bruins with 21, and they're first in that division. Also, aside from that, in their last 10, Montreal is 3-6-1, currently on a 3-game losing streak. Teams that are going into the playoffs, they don't typically go on 3-game losing skids to begin with. And in their last 10, I think we've really seen them level themselves out. Maybe an early or an easy start to their schedule at the beginning of October, like you mentioned. Not a whole lot of travel, not too many difficult teams to face off against. But in this month of November, I think we're starting to see them maybe become more what we were expecting. And I don't think we're too far off from seeing this team drop a few more spots within these standings.
Just to add, and we like to always correct our mistakes, I said Anaheim, I meant San Jose. San Jose has been dreadful, but they have 3 regulation wins. Canadiens just 2.
Yeah, I think the one last thing I will say about the standings, Montreal currently played 17 games. That's actually some of the most within their division. Boston only 15 games, Toronto 16, Ottawa 14. So some other teams do have some games at hand on Montreal there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe drop 1 or 2 more points before even next week, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so I think we both agree Montreal Canadiens, at least standings-wise, they're going to be a dud this season. And Rick, do you have any final points that you wanted to add before we move off into our final segment?
Yeah, and I don't think, calling people duds or whatever, it's I think it's about expectations. It's about not lowering expectations. It's not being about not being critical, but when you have a team that's near the bottom of the standings, in the bottom third of the standings, there probably isn't a lot of studs on that team, and that's our hope that's going to change. And as these young prospects get opportunities and grow together, that equation, the studs and duds equation, is going to change rapidly and we look forward to that. So don't take it as a negative, because we talked about with every player that we called a dud, we talked about some positives to their game and positives to their season.
Yep, that's for sure as well. And if I didn't mention it off the top of the segment, we didn't allow ourselves to go like in between stud or dud, which made things, I think, a little bit more interesting and difficult to do. Because a lot of these, I could have literally just said, yeah, I'm kind of indifferent about what they've been able to do. But labeling them a stud or a dud made things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun. And I think it made for a pretty entertaining segment there.
Great point.
So I think now is a good time to take our final break. We'll hear from our sponsors, Raycon, and then we'll get to the Have Your Say segment. Our Canadiens Connection question of the week is, who is your biggest stud and who is your biggest dud so far this season? We want to hear from you, and stay with us. You are listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Have you started noticing how many holiday and Christmas commercials are already popping up on your television screens? Well, listen, it may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, but it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. So why not take care of it now before the crowds and packed calendars make shopping a total nightmare, especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday. Hey, guess what? You can shop Raycon products right now and save up to 50% off because their early Black Friday sale is going on right now. Now, you've heard me talk about Raycon's products before, right? Their everyday earbuds are a product that I use all the time. They've got great sound. They've got one-touch environmental settings on the earbuds themselves. They fit so comfortably inside my ear, and their connectivity is always seamless. They are absolutely tremendous. Raycon first made a name for themselves in the audio space with products like those everyday earbuds, which of course are known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features like a 32-hour battery life and that perfect in-ear fit that I talked about. That gives you all-day wear and lasting comfort. And did you know that this past year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon PowerTech. So what is that? Well, check this out. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Looking for something that's not electronics related? Well, guess what? Their faucet filter ultra filters the water in your tap against chlorine and heavy metals. It's a must-have for ensuring the water you use to wash your face and brush your teeth is, actually clean. Raycon's known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. So it's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. So, to get everyone in the holiday shopping spirit a little bit early, Raycon is offering currently 20% off everything on their site, with select products up to 50% off. So, beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. So hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. buyraycon.com/THPN.
Welcome back to episode 270 of the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio. Make sure you're following at Habs Connection on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and you can check out the website canadiensconnection.fm. Also, feel free to text us anytime via the Rocket Sports text line at 5853-ROCKET. That's 5853-ROCKET. And, Rick, that was a pretty fun segment. Kind of difficult to decide who's going to be those studs and duds, but I think based on where we're at in this season, we did a pretty good job of relaying that information and giving good justification for it.
Why do we make it so hard on ourselves? Why do we do that? Why did we handcuff ourselves? Why did we force ourselves to pick a stud or dud? We should have just said, somewhere in the middle, or no, but because it's more fun and because it's having to justify ourselves, and because we know our listeners out there are going to have different opinions, and they're going to feel them strongly, and they're going to let us know. And we really enjoy that and enjoy hearing from everybody, whether you agree with us, whether you disagree with us. But we're just glad that you listen.
Yeah, like Yakadobis, I like a good challenge. I have fun with that.
That's right, exactly.
So here at Rocket Sports, we have all sorts of Montreal Canadiens coverage, and you can get it all at one place. Just head over to thn.com/Montreal, and you can find anything and everything you need to know about the Montreal Canadiens, from feature articles, game day. You can even find out about the prospects. Head over there, thn.com/Montreal. But also, we like to do a lot of different styles of content. We have a YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to it. Just search @AllHabs, and you can pull that up. Throughout the week, Amy Johnson hosts the Habs Hockey Report Show. The latest episode, entitled Caden Gooley, Blue Line Superstar in the Making. Head over and check that one out. Amy Johnson is a wonderful host. She does a great job putting together this content, and she loves to hear from all her viewers too. So hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, let her know your thoughts. Also, if you like prospects, if you want to keep up to date with everything Laval Rocket, she hosts the Rocket Hockey Report, the latest episode entitled Laval Rocket Liftoff. And why did Edmonton choose a new coach for the Edmonton Oilers? Head over there and check out that one as well. Also, you'll find in the feed this podcast, the Canadiens Connection podcast. The last episode was entitled Which Development Path Works Best for Habs Prospects. We like to put this podcast on YouTube as well, so if you want to see either of our faces, if you just prefer going on YouTube in general, head over there, just search @AllHabs, and you can hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss any of our amazing content. Also, just a little heads up for those who enjoy being on YouTube, or if you haven't already, you might want to check this one out. We have a live stream coming up on the THPN YouTube channel on November the 29th, Montreal versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. Myself and our Rocket Sports Media contributor, Gustav, will be doing a live stream watch along. So if you want to come hang out, get to know us, send us your questions, watch the game with us, head over and look out for that. We'll be posting that on our social medias, or you can just keep an eye out on the THPN YouTube channel.
These are so much fun. The watch-alongs are so much fun. Better with a group, and Michael, you do a great job, and Nathan has been on our watch-alongs, and Gustav's coming up. I want to hear from our listeners if they want us to do more of these watch-alongs. If it's a way you enjoy watching a game with others, interacting, leaving comments, reach out to us at 5853-ROCKET and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to hear all your feedback on that. Also, just want to let you all know to make sure you subscribe to the premier Rocket Sports Radio podcast on your favorite podcasting app. The Canadiens Connection, that's this podcast you're listening to. We are your inside link to the Montreal Canadiens. You can find every single episode at CanadiensConnection.fm. We're here every single Saturday throughout the year. I know sometimes other podcasts and radio stations will stop talking about your favorite teams throughout the summer or around the holidays, but no, we don't go on vacation. We're here all year round to give you all the best information on the Montreal Canadiens. And as we are in mid-November, our Movember campaign is underway. If you are interested in keeping up to date with everything we're doing, our team name is just Rocket Sports. If you want to get involved in any way, let us know. If you want to give us a donation, as we do believe in this Movember initiative, raising money for men's mental health men's health in general is something that we find very important. So even if you want to just see how my mustache is doing, I've been providing a daily update. You'll see all sorts of just incredible selfies on there as well.
It's looking great. Movember.com or Movember.ca. Either one, search for Rocket Sports, and you'll see Michael on there. I have a page. Amy has a page, or make a donation to the team in general. We're happy to pass that on to the folks from Movember.
Absolutely. And now it's time to turn it over to our listeners. Our Canadiens Connection question of the week is, who is your biggest stud and who is your biggest stud so far this season? We want to make sure we hear from you. The Rocket Sports text line is 5853-ROCKET. But if you have a little bit more to say, Rick, I believe we have an email address they can reach out to us at.
You can email us at hello@rocketsportsmedia.com.
And throughout the week, we get tons of texts, tweets, emails, just all sorts of different ways that our listeners are reaching out to us. And I believe that we have some interesting reactions to last week.
Well, this is a rather lengthy comment, and I'm just going to try and slice and dice it as we go. This comes from @CenterHeis on YouTube. And he says that he's on the Goalie train. Ever since he was drafted, he's my favorite young player, says CenterHeis. He's our number one D-man of the future, a great leader, a great personality, and in his opinion, would have been a better choice for captain. His only concern is Goolie's health. He goes on to say that he's concerned about the forwards, in particular about the size of the forwards, and also that it's kind of a mediocre talent level, and that has to improve, and that that there has to be some elite talent added. And he said, and we better start drafting bigger, talented wingers, or we're going to be in trouble. There's only 4 players in Laval and juniors combined in our forward group that has a chance with the Habs, in his opinion. Heineman, Joshua Waugh, Machar, and Owen Beck, and they're not that big, average. The rest are just too small. Sad that they're talented, but size will be the problem in the forward group in the future. Keep up the good work.
So appreciate that message, and we look forward to continuing to receive all sorts of great text, comments, tweets, messages. Any way you want to reach out to us, we love hearing from all of our listeners. So coming up this week, it's going to be pretty busy and all over the place. We'll start with tonight, November the 18th. Montreal's visiting Boston, and we're going to see a Jake Allen in net for Montreal. A couple days off in between, and Montreal heads out to Anaheim on November the 22nd. That's a 10 p.m. start. So if you're not willing to stay up late enough, head over to thn.com/Montreal. We'll give you the full recap over there if you missed it. The 23rd, that's a happy Thanksgiving to all of our nice listeners and friends south of the border in the U.S. And, of course, the very next day on November the 24th, Montreal visits San Jose for a 3:30 p.m. start. So those of us who are working or shopping that day, once again, head over to thn.com/Montreal for all of your game updates. And you can follow us on social media too, Rick, at Rocket Sports. You'll be giving the live tweets, I believe, for this game, right?
Absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter or X, on Facebook. And we'll be, with these odd starts this week, the Black Friday start in a matinee game, and a very late game on Tuesday night.
So that's going to be a wrap for us today. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for the Canadiens Connection in the player or on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Also share it on social media if you like what you heard today. Enjoy the week, and we'll be back here next Saturday, November the 25th, for another great episode. Thank you all for listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.